Of course, once she was finished with her confession, she told me how much she loved me and always has, and she's willing to do anything and everything to try and save the marriage. Welcome back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories, where I go over them, analyze them, and most certainly make fun of them. Today, or in this case tonight, I'm doing part 2 to the story I covered earlier about the guy who discovered that his wife was having an affair for like 4 years. You all recall that she just abruptly left after for 3 days. He knew where she was, ditched him, the girls, all that, and found out one way or another that she was having an affair. And we're going to be going into part 2 here, like I said, and you're going to find out all the details of who the guy was, how she reacts, her accountability, if you will, all that. And ultimately, this guy's handling it right by kicking her to the curb. And also, I want to mention that in the previous story, the reason she disappeared for 3 days is because her lover, he's older, had a heart attack and died, which, quite honestly, I think is quite funny. And that's karma, because the guy obviously knew that she was married, etc., etc. So, jumping into it. And by the way, guys, this is a long one, so definitely get some beer, some popcorn, whatever you like to enjoy. Or if you're driving somewhere in the car, you'll enjoy a good, longer video. It says here, the wayward wife finally came home and I asked for a divorce. This will be a rather anticlimactic, but apologies for the length. I just need to get this off my chest. It was a terrible weekend. My wife came home yesterday. A decent amount of buildup up to it this week went on. Any prior time when she had first entered the doorway, I'd give her a hug and a kiss. But this time, this was just horribly uncomfortable awkwardness between us. Gee, you think? You found out she's been having an affair for years? Of course it's going to be awkward. She actually came up to me and tried to give me a hug before saying anything, but I turned away. Unreal. Just as if nothing had ever happened. Right. She doesn't care. No accountability. You're going to hug her? Really? After she settled in, I naturally asked her to tell me everything, and she again reiterated, saying she's not ready. You want to stay in this marriage, you're going to get ready. Right now, you're going to spill the beans and tell me everything, and if you leave one detail out, we're done. Now, obviously, they're done anyway, but she doesn't need to know that. But you can tell, guys, by the way, in this whole thing, this guy's obviously another nice guy who just had the blinders on, because he mentioned that his wife was his whole world, which you can never do. It's sad, but you can never do that because you know what happens when you do. You have to be the center of the universe, not somebody else. I insisted that the only condition of her moving back home was that she loved the family enough to explain why she's been absent for going on 3 weeks. Wow, 3 weeks he hasn't seen her. Remember, she wouldn't come home. She's with the grandparents. She was afraid to come home and face the music. But she just repeated to me that she wasn't ready for that. It took a lot to not scream at her, but I took a couple deep breaths and tried to compose myself. I failed, and after the first of many very long pauses, I just blurted out that she's been having an affair for 4 years with this co-worker of hers, planned on leaving me for this other man, ghosted her whole family, and now walks through the door without fulfilling one single condition that I had asked for, and that I wanted a divorce. Well, good for you. You want the divorce, but of course she's not going to fulfill your demands because she has no respect for you. Okay? Now, I'm sure this guy made a lot of mistakes, but he's still obviously a good guy, good husband, good father, and he deserves respect, but she has none for him. And this is what happens when a man, in a woman's eyes, displays weakness amongst many other things. But she's also an a-hole, so I'm not trying to blame him. I'm sure he's made mistakes, but she's the a-hole here. I guess this is when things got weird. Her body language and facial expressions made it obvious she had no idea how much I knew about her affair. She glanced at me wide-eyed, and then just stood there in the kitchen staring at the floor, and said nothing, just stoic. I was expecting anything, everything but this. Maybe an emotional tirade, maybe a teary-eyed confession, maybe she'd start screaming at me, blaming the affair on me. Maybe a serious tone, okay, let's sit down and talk this out, but not this reaction. So she's stone cold, she's not doing anything, because she is cold. She just doesn't give a shit, she's indifferent. And in a lot of these situations, the girls start pulling things from the Hobag handbook. I'm so sorry. It's not what I'll do anything to make up for this. I'll do anything you want, blah, 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 or even blaming him. But this guy gets nothing. We honestly must have stood in the kitchen for 5 minutes in absolute silence. It was the strangest moment I've ever experienced. She clearly didn't know what to say, and neither did I. I read all your comments and advice on my situation. I even took notes. I sat in front of a mirror and prepared myself for all possible scenarios that this confrontation might present, except this one. 5 minutes in pure silence, staring at each other. That's a long time. That feels like an eternity. So I eventually decided right then and there to map out everything I knew about her affair. Maybe it was dumb of me. I proceeded to tell her everything that I knew, admittedly adding in my own assumptions about several things: how she met the affair partner, her sister's involvement, what went on during COVID, etc. She just stared at the floor the entire time. I just picture her staring at the floor like a little 6-year-old just got in trouble and doesn't know what to say. I got angry as I went along because she said nothing, but I did everything I could not to raise my voice or get obscene. Dude, you got every right and reason to raise your voice and get obscene. Nobody would blame you. Problem is, it could be twisted around at her saying she feels unsafe, calls the cops, and you all know how that ends for the guy typically. I finally composed myself, and there was another lengthy, awkward silence. Then anger switched to sadness at the realization of everything. I then softly asked her what I did to push her away. Did she ever love me, and was he, the affair partner, worth it? She said nothing. Didn't budge, didn't move, just nothing from her at all. No tears, no apologies, no yelling, no explanation. Just stood there with her head down, nothing. This hurt. This hurt the most, more than anything worse than D-Day did. I stood there staring at her, not sure I would have moved, but things got worse. This poor guy, he wanted something. Give me something, bitch, but nothing. Of course, our girls were eavesdropping on the entire encounter. Of course they were. Well, I'll tell you one thing. If he's not going to yell at her, I guarantee you teenage girls are going to yell at her. He says, I'm just so incredibly stupid. I've been dedicating so much energy into putting them first and their needs over the past couple weeks, but I got emotional and didn't give a single thought to their whereabouts once I confronted my wife. So, our oldest daughter stormed downstairs and lashed out. A lot of pent-up anger on her part. My wife quickly ran upstairs and locked the bedroom door. Oh my God. Whenever one, I love it that the teenage daughter's yelling and screaming at her. Anybody that grew up with sisters or, girls, how they act when they're pissed off at their moms as teenagers, and it's warranted here. And she runs away and slams the bedroom door. No accountability. She's a fucking coward. That's where we are right now. I heard my wife crying most of the night last night until I fell asleep. Oh, now she's crying. And she wanted to make sure you heard the whole night, probably trying to soften you. Only our youngest has tried talking to her. The rest have also avoided her. If I can get the courage up, I'm going to suggest that she stay with her sister until we're able to finalize the divorce. But this is her home too. It's just going to be miserable if we have to cohabitate with her. It's going to be miserable, but legally, obviously, you can't boot her out. Good luck trying to get her to go to the sister's house, though. I was wrong about my wife, and all you were correct. I was wrong about all our years together. Wrong about all the memories, the life-changing moments, etc. I was convinced she dropped to her knees and begged for forgiveness. Well, she's been dropping her knees for somebody else for 4 years. You're not going to get that. I was so convinced that she would repent of everything from the last 4 years and unload the truth to absolve her guilt. This woman literally drove back to a farmer's market once when she realized she'd been given $10 too much in change, but we're not worth it to her. I'm not worth it to her. Maybe I never was. That's the problem. I've been with her for 23 years, and his description of her sounds like they're buddies. Secret language, secret handshakes, and stuff like that. It's just, and don't get me wrong, it'd be a great relationship as you can be friends and lovers at the same time, but the whole thing, I want my guy to be my best friend. Well, women aren't romantically turned on by their male best friends. That's not how it works. So there's the little balance there, but clearly this doesn't have it. And you're going to find out that she's bored. She's just bored, needs some excitement, and it's just ridiculous. The butterflies, that crap. You want butterflies? Go to a fucking butterfly garden, lady. He says, now what? Today was so uncomfortable at home, the girls and I tried to carry on as we had the past 2 weeks. But obviously that is not possible. I just want to fast forward past all this, past the divorce, past the awkward conversations, past the inevitable arguments, fights, past the drama. To those that have had to cohabitate with their wayward spouse, how did you manage that? Especially with kids. I know this is just the beginning. I keep reading all the posts that promise it gets better, but I'm still so far away from that. Dude, it does get better. At least that's what I've heard. Read countless stories that it does get better for guys. They turn things around. But they have to go through the hell before they can get to heaven. There's not a single moment where I don't want to scream and sob right now. I'm trying very hard to maintain a stable mind for the girls, of course, but I don't know if I can keep it up for 3 months. Brother, you're stronger than you realize, but you must stay stoic and a rock. On your own privately, scream, cry, do whatever you gotta do. Get in the car, drive out into the woods somewhere in a park and yell and scream and cry. Just make sure nobody calls the cops on you. But when you're around the girls, you're strong and stoic. And let them scream at her, because they will. School will start well before this is all over. I guess this is my life right now. Thank you all for taking such a vested interest in me. I don't know if the worst is ahead or behind us, but I appreciate all you can offer to get me through the next phase. Now, the next part of this story here, we're going on here. He says here, I'm in a bad way right now, and I've been in a bad way since my wayward wife came home since I learned about her affair. I've been trying to fake it as best as possible for my daughters. I try to say the right things, think the right things, but tonight I have to admit the truth. As many of you post daily, it comes in waves, but I was hit with a big one tonight and lost my composure a bit. The divorce is filed, but my wayward wife still has yet to hire a lawyer, and again, I'm trying to be as patient and delicate in this regard as possible, as I'm starting to see hope of an uncontested divorce that we mainly handle mostly ourselves, but after tonight, I don't know. Well, good for you for filing a divorce. It's obviously been a few months now because he said it takes 3 months in his state, and she hasn't hired a lawyer yet. She's just, probably her perception of him is that eventually he'll cave. That's what she thinks of him. We've been cohabiting during the week, and the wayward wife goes to her sister's Friday nights and returns home Sunday nights, as she works very close to our family home. But her sister is an hour away and there is no traffic. For the past couple weeks, it's been this routine of mostly avoidance, as myself and the girls are trying to carry on normal, while wayward wife kind of just stays to herself, though there are casual interactions every evening, except that my oldest daughter and my wayward wife aren't speaking after a couple of bad blow-ups. I knew the older daughter wasn't going to let this shit go. It's for the best right now. Lately, I've been heeding much of your advice along with things I've read. I work very hard on my self-discipline around my wife, and though it takes all my strength and power, I've been short and indifferent toward her when we briefly talk, though always polite, respectful until tonight. The last couple of Fridays, she's come home from work, gotten a few things together, and taken off for her sister's for the weekend, before I'm even home from work. But not tonight. She was waiting in the kitchen for me when I got home tonight. And what is going to happen now? Remember, guys, this is going on for months now. He still hasn't gotten his explanation from her. Do you think that you would have let that shit slide an hour, let alone months, without getting the explanation? But she's been waiting all this time, getting her story right to tell him. It says here, I just tried to walk past her, but she lightly grabbed me by the hand and asked me if this is how I was going to treat her, just because she's not ready to talk to me about her affair. She's got some nerve. Which, by the way, is the very first time she's much as mentioned a single word about her cheating since this all blew up almost a month ago. Okay, it's been a month. I promise you, I tried to bite my tongue and walk away. But our daughters weren't home at the time, and rage built up at me, and then I unloaded my every vice, pain, every hurt, ache, rage, and misery. I unloaded everything on her. I can't even tell you how long I went on. I lost all concept of time. It's been building up all this time, and nobody can blame him. And if the situation was reversed, she'd do the same thing, except she wouldn't be waiting around for a month. Believe me, he'd get it all immediately. I did raise my voice a couple of times. I got a little animated and loud. I just broke down and told her how broken I am and the agony that I'm in every day. I wouldn't have said that. Everything I've been holding back, everything that's been tormenting me. I mean, I could make this post 4,000 words long if I tried to recount everything I said. Once I started, I wasn't going to stop. Of course I cried, got emotional again, and I was so freaking angry at myself afterwards. I've been doing so well, damn it. She got to me. I let her get to me. I knew it would happen. I knew it. Ugh, I've been building for a while, and there's only so much I can vent into the weight room. Dude, you're human. You did your best this long for a month, but you've been with her all this time. She knows exactly what to say and do to get a rise out of you. It's unfortunate. You know, you see these old married couples. They're together for a long time, whether they should be or not. And the way they'll just go back and forth at each other, I mean, and just nobody in the world can get to a guy the way his wife for a long time can if it's a bad situation, and vice versa. Well, also for the first time, the wayward wife actually broke down and got emotional. Surprisingly, started sobbing uncontrollably. Regrettably, this made me happy to see her hurting in the same way that I was. You're darn right. I'm glad you could at least admit it. I wish that I didn't care, but there was some satisfaction seeing her break down finally. Like there's actually someone in there with an ounce of compassion. Dude, there's no compassion. She's crying because she's put on the show. She doesn't want to get a divorce. And she's put on this show to try to wear you down. Phase 1 didn't work, so now she's trying phase 2. Also, surprisingly, she mumbles apologies repeatedly during my explosion. She was kind of ugly crying, and that all she would say is, "I'm so sorry." But in the end, I left the kitchen before she could compose herself enough to say anything else. Told her, please leave me alone. So that happened. She lingered around the kitchen for a while before leaving again for her sister's house. The girls got home about half an hour later and knew something had happened. Hard to hide it. But I wasn't ready to talk about anything and don't think they need to know about this, do they? The two youngest have been doing much better and I don't want to hinder their progress. And telling my oldest about this will just add more fuel to her fire, which I don't want. I'm sure your oldest is smart enough to figure it out herself. I hate this so much. I hate it. I should have held it together. I shouldn't just give my wayward wife the cold shoulder and walked right past her. I don't know. Now thinking back, it feels like she was just trying to start a conversation about her affair, but I didn't know how. And obviously didn't get very far because I exploded. I started to actually worry about her. I know many of you will criticize me for this, but I don't want her to come to any harm. She's been isolated alone with her thoughts and nearly everyone turning their back on her. You can say she deserves it, and that's true, but she's still a human being and the mother of my kids. No, she does deserve it. End of story. And your kids aren't exactly very fond of her right now. I know she's the mother of your kids, and you hope one day you can divorce and be amicable and blah, 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 but she's an asshole. She on multiple fronts here, and I can go over them, every single one of them, but I think you've been watching me long enough to know what I'm thinking here. Don't feel bad for her. What a setback for me. I'm really disappointed in myself. Dude, you're human, okay? You messed up. Let it go. Sorry for another long rant. I called my brother and ranted to him too. Man, I'll try to start again on Monday. I'm only human. It actually felt good to vent on her, but now, of course, the regret is hitting me. Should I text my wife or just leave it be? Do not text your wife. Leave it be. You have no reason to text her. I'm such a mess right now, but thanks for listening. Thanks for offering me the support I need to get through all this. And thank you for the advice in the midst of the chaos. We've all started therapy, so that's something. But this is so incredibly hard, so hard. Well, when you say we, I'm assuming you and the daughters, not the wife. There's no point to that. Next update to the story says it's been an awful week. I know many of you have reached out to me, and I do appreciate the concern. Most of you were correct. Things aren't great, and I haven't had the chance to get online at all. I wanted to maybe take a break from the internet, but this week had me backpedaling horribly. It's just been awful. Wife hasn't left me alone a whole week. Overly nice and continually apologizing for her affair. Sobbing and then smothering me. So phase 1, she doesn't say anything. Thinking okay. That didn't work. Now she's love bombing you and crying and drama, the full-on theatrics. She's knocking on my door at night wanting to talk. I've ignored her some, but talked when I was in the mood. I finally snapped at her Wednesday night telling her to leave me the hell alone, and then, last night it happened. Just over a month since my soon-to-be ex came back home after her affair blew up, and now as things have entered this uncomfortable cohabiting routine, she came into my room after the girls went to bed and asked to talk with me in private. Differently than she'd been approaching me all week. She's trying a new tactic. That's what's going on here. I followed it first, but eventually we actually went to the garage and sat in my car so as not to make the mistake of confrontation in front of the girls again. This is lengthy, and I do apologize. So now we're going to finally get into her reasoning behind all this. All her BS excuses that went on, how this whole played out. And as you watch this, I want for you guys to watch me a lot, pay attention to some things here that aren't going to surprise you at all. Dealing with accountability and that type of thing. She told me everything according to her. Brother, there's no way in hell you got everything. We were out there for almost 3 hours. I don't know how much to share. I was up all night and listened to her sobbing again for several hours, and I couldn't sleep. I cried too. Then I get super angry and have to resist going on to scream at her, then cry, then anger, and go on and on. Forgive me if I take a day or so to respond to anyone, but I need to get this off my chest and then try to sleep. It hasn't helped having my wayward wife constantly apologizing and begging me for another chance all evening tonight too. I had to leave for a few hours and just get away from her. It's just so painful to be around her. Anyway, She told me that she was introduced to her affair partner by her sister well before COVID. So the sister, remember the sister who was covering for her, introduced her to her affair partner. So already she's blaming the sister, right? Not my fault. Blame the sister. Lack of accountability. Dating back about 5 years ago. Apparently with zero romantic intentions, but he was a higher up at the company that she wanted to work for, and currently does, and he gave her an in. He gave her more than an in. So her desire to change jobs was not based on her affair. But once she did change jobs, obviously she had an extra incentive. Once she got the job, the affair partner began flirting with her. Again, first she blames the sister. Sister introduced me to him. And now she's blaming the affair partner. He began flirting with me. I wouldn't have done it if he wouldn't have flirted with me. It's all his fault. I couldn't control myself. Started out as texting, then pictures and more texting, and then became just physical just before COVID hit. She confessed to her sister and wanted to come clean to me, but then decided to bury it and say nothing, of course. I want to know if her sister's married and has kids, or his sister is alone and is jealous of her and her family and all that. Because a lot of times, sadly, women, friends or family, they will sabotage their female family, friends or family or friends because they don't have what they want in their life. Wife said she went no contact with her affair partner soon afterwards, but as lockdowns and restrictions were lifted, he reached back out to her and she resumed talking to him until the physical side of the affair started up once again. Again, it's all his fault. You can't say no. You can't do something about this. No accountability. She claims to have ended the affair a couple times out of guilt, but kept going back to him, so it never ended, essentially. Yeah, he gave her the butterflies, and I'm not buying any of this bullshit. I'm sure she was much more vested in pursuing him than she's making out to be. She actually included a lot of details, had a 5-page packet of handwritten notes of her affair timeline, read off the entire thing, answering questions along the way. She lied about the weekend trips with the girls. She lied about traveling for work. She lied about traffic jams, about issues with her parents, about shopping trips, etc. Just as I suspected, and the list was extensive. Okay, so let's review. Traveling for work, weekend trips with the girls, all those other things that she claimed she was actually with the affair partner. So many lies, I just trusted her every word, never questioned anything, but they were just a front to be with him. Hearing it all, it just made me feel worse. Everyone was correct about that. Some people are better off not knowing everything. Others need to know no matter how bad it is. I think this guy will never be able to move on until he knows everything as much as possible. That's just me. But her affection never really dipped while all this was going on. She never got distant like I read so often. Intimacy did change, but not enough to where I'd see red flags. Anyway, she admits falling in love with the affair partner and wanting a life with him. He was older, divorced, single, and promised her expensive things, vacations, and the things he could dote on her with. Cha-ching. She started fantasizing about escaping her responsibilities with the family and claimed the thrill of being with him as too much to resist. There you go. And not to mention, he was going to take her on expensive vacations and all that. Older guy, huh? And this scumbag knew she was married, knew she had 3 kids, and he didn't care. Gee, I wonder why he's divorced. Probably because he was a cheater and messed up his first marriage. And I might add, how does she know she's the only one? Chad or Tyrone here probably has multiple girls, telling them the same thing. She claimed the thrill of being with him was too much to resist. Talked about how bored she got with the daily routines of family life. There you go. She was bored. Bored with him, bored with her husband who's just become like a buddy, a roommate. They did hook up, but still bored. She was incredibly candid, very emotional, and seemingly honest. But dude, come on here. I lost my composure and began crying midway, though. It hurt to hear, as you'd all expect. Don't ever let him see you cry. You're probably wondering, SSM, why aren't you smacking the shit out of this guy? A few points here. Well, I'm in a particularly compassionate mood today. I don't feel like smacking him because he's going through hell. But God damn it, stop crying in front of your wife. Or soon-to-be ex-wife. Of course, once she finished with her confession, she told me how much she loved me and always has. Really, you love me so much and you always have, and yet this is what you've done. Your actions say otherwise, darling. And that she's willing to do anything possible to try and save the marriage. Hobag Handbook, Chapter 8. A lot of you predicted this would happen. Yeah, people like me. But it all just seems so disingenuous to me, like it was rehearsed. Dude, it was rehearsed. She's had a month to rehearse it. I've been with this woman well over half my life, and I can just tell when she's full of crap. Maybe I'm wrong, guess it doesn't matter. But I composed myself better than last week. I still got angry and said a few not so nice things, including getting a jab about how her affair partner was seeing multiple women, and she was just one of many that he was willing to toss aside. That seemed to really upset her. Yeah, she's more upset about that than other things. Again, she doesn't give a shit about you. He's gone. The guy that was going to take her away from this life is gone, so now she's trying to salvage the marriage. She doesn't give a shit about you or the girls. It's all about her. A million things have gone through my brain when thinking about this moment when she'd finally confess. All the one-liners I might throw at her were things I could say to hurt her back. Hundreds of responses that I couldn't think of in the emotional moment the other night. But one thing I knew I would ask, and that was if the apparent partner was still alive and she had to choose between him and me, who would she choose? Dude, of course she's going to say you. She hesitated and then mumbled, "That's not fair." I pressed the issue and she eventually said she'd of course pick me. She hesitated and then said, "That's not fair." Come on. She was going to leave you if it wasn't for him, or at least she was hoping to. I think he was stringing her along for 4 years, keeping her hopes up. That's why she didn't leave the husband and the family sooner. But this guy no doubt had other chicks on the side. My response was that her hesitation was the reason I was divorcing her, because she was lying again. She started sobbing, and that was the last she spoke. She is completely full of crap, and you know it. We sat in the car for a while. She just kept sobbing. But I was tired. So I just told her that we were divorcing, and we owe it to the girls to get along in a civil way, to be great parents and be present in their lives. I also added that after all the pain she put me through, I hope she was a good enough person to divorce fairly and amicably, and that would prove she actually loved me. Yeah, she wanted to prove she loves you, give you a very civil, reasonable, amicable divorce. Good luck with that, but still. This guy deserves it. The last thing I said to her, I stole from someone else online. Please understand that I'm not a petty person. I did not purposely want to cause her pain. Dude, you're allowed to be petty. It just seemed a fitting end to it all. But I did 100% mean what I said and did. I leaned over and kissed her on her forehead and told her I would have loved her forever, then got out of the car and went to bed. Okay, let her cry on that. That was it. Of course, I didn't sleep that night, and I'm here unable to sleep once again tonight. I don't know what happens now. Her opportunity to contest the divorce has come and gone, so I guess that's one good thing, but I haven't talked to my lawyer yet. Talk to your lawyer. Keep in touch with him or her. I found myself crying again, sinking back into those depression, anger phases. It was very hard hearing everything last night. In reality, I could have done without it. Now I know. She could have lied and made it all up too. Dude, there's plenty of lying going on. Who knows? But it seemed to fit perfectly with everything I put together in the last month. So that is it for now. This is just a never-ending, it seems. I have a few good days starting to feel strong again, and then sometimes something else happens. It feels like it's been months and yet only days at the same time. But I'm going to try and sleep. Imagine the love of your life, the only woman you ever loved, ever kissed, tells you she cheated on you for 4 years because she was bored. Didn't fall out of love, didn't grow apart, didn't have any relationship issues or dead bedroom, nothing like that. Just because she was bored. I don't know if that makes it worse or better. Thanks for reading and helping along the way. Bad couple of nights. Very bad. I promise to make an effort to respond tomorrow after I get a chance to sleep. So that is the end of this saga as of right now. Now I'm sure there's going to be more updates about the divorce and all that. But what a story. And sadly, her actions say everything. But what this guy needs to do is to stay strong for himself, the girls, and hopefully this divorce will come sooner rather than later. If he's doing individual counseling, if that will help him, good. But the guy says he likes to work out at the gym. That's what I say he does. Don't start guzzling alcohol or drugs, eating garbage, exercise. Even if you have no energy to lift weights or hit the gym, go for a walk. You'll feel better. Believe me, okay? I'm a fucking trainer. Or at least in a past life, I was a trainer. I'll always be a trainer. I'm maintaining my license just in case, but I'm not training anybody else anymore. But the point is, exercise really does wonders for not only the body, but also the mind and the soul. Keep that up and take it one day at a time. And I recommend he spends time with people he truly knows, love him, family members, friends. And I'm sure it's embarrassing as hell to talk about this with friends and family. No one wants to admit that I've been cheated on for 4 years and had no idea, because you can't blame him. Stick to the people you can truly count on and get through it one day at a time. And he already said some days he's feeling better, then he goes right back to it. That's normal. Anybody's been through a bad breakup or been cheated on understands it. But as time goes on, it will get better. And one good thing is the daughters are on his side. That's awesome. And times when he doesn't have it in him to tear a new one, he can count on the oldest daughter to do so. She's daddy's girl and standing by her dad. And hopefully this wife will be out of the picture and he can move on. But he's 40 years old. He's younger than me. And I consider myself to be young. He's plenty of life left in him. He's still in his prime. She ain't in her prime, right? She's about 39, 40 years old. And she knows it because she was with an older guy. So to him, she was a prize because she's younger. Well, he's toast. He's now in hell. But he'll be okay. But just don't cave. Don't, just... And the worst part is he's still living with her. She's still in the same house 5 days a week. That's got to be hell. But be strong. Be strong for yourself, the girls, and you're going to make it. So, guys, I'll keep an eye out for updates here. If you see an update to this before I do, let me know and I'll cover it. All right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below and know what you think about this. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.